Hi everyone, Michael B, alcoholic.
Hi, Michael.
It's been a long time since I spoke in front of a group that wasn't newcomers, so a little nervous, but bear with me. I guess I'll just do like a really brief run through of my history with addiction and where it led me and where I'm at today. I grew up with alcoholic and addict parents. Very abusive to each other, not really to us kids, but to each other, very physically and emotionally and verbally abusive. Mostly poor. Like my dad was in the oil field, and wherever there was oil, we would move. So like every 3 to 6 months during my childhood, we would move somewhere new. Because of all that moving, as a little kid, elementary school age, I never really fit in, right? We would get someplace, kids would be mean to the new kids. We knew that in a few months we'd be gone, so we didn't even try to fit in with other kids, right? Always felt like an outsider, right? And that's kind of like story of many addicts and alcoholics, right? They didn't feel like they fit in. They all felt like they were different. Nobody understood them, that kind of thing. My parents, as I said, my parents were like alcoholics and addicts, but I didn't really care about that. I didn't even know about it really, except for when they were yelling and screaming and beating each other. But I didn't really care for it until there was a chance my dad had a offer. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to it's like third grade. Finally moved overseas to Scotland so he could work on offshore rigs there. And Scottish kids really hated Americans back then. And so it was even worse. Even worse for my brother and I. We already felt like we didn't fit in to get, beat up by the older kids in Scotland all the time. It got so bad that our parents had to put us in a private school, a very strict English style private school where there's no socialization. It's all about proper etiquette. You sit up straight or you get hit by a stick and life. So basically through my whole childhood, I always felt like an outsider, didn't have friends, didn't have anybody to talk to, didn't have any bond with, including my parents. Got back to States for a while. We went then when I was about 12, we moved to Bangkok, Thailand. And my dad was working oil fields out in the waters there. And the interesting thing about that was instead of like going to nobody spoke English. This was like in the 80s, so nobody spoke English in Thailand. So you couldn't just go to, like in Scotland, you go to a regular school and just fit in. So we had to go to the international school, and Bangkok had a big U.S. Air Force base there at that time. So the school was filled with American military brats, and they had the same kind of growing up as I did, right? They were moving all around. They never fit in with anybody else, mostly, from being in the military and also just moving around a lot. And they welcomed new people, right? It's like, wow, a new kid from America. What's going on in the States? What's happening over there? Welcome. And they also introduced me to the fact that Thailand didn't have a drinking age, or you could walk into any pharmacy without a prescription and get whatever you wanted, whatever you asked for, as long as you knew how to ask for it in Thai. So they invite me out, right? Of course, and I felt for the first time in my life, I felt welcomed and part of something. And as soon as I got introduced to drugs and alcohol, it was like every day, except for during school, after school, all night till the next morning. Get some uppers from the pharmacy and stay up during the day and repeat over and over for 2 years. It was like an amazing experience for me. Like the drugs and alcohol burst that wall that I had built up around myself growing up all that time. And I thought it was a solution, right? I thought it was everything I wanted to more. I was part of a crowd, I was part of a scene. I didn't have any inhibitions. I was social, I was funny, blah, blah, blah. So long story short, my mom got into it again after a couple of years in Bangkok. And he got up and left. He took all the money out of the bank and left us in Bangkok, went back to the States. And so we were kind of stranded there. My mom was figuring out how to get us back. We made it back. My parents got back together, but my dad had blown all the money on drugs by that time. So we were broke again. And by the time I was like 14, starting high school. And it wasn't like a party scene in the US like I was used to the past 2 years in Thailand. So I kind of made a decision that I wasn't going to rely on anybody else anymore. I wasn't going to live like this. I wasn't going to be like my parents. I was going to, take action, be self-reliant, and do things for myself. So I worked full time all through high school. I worked a couple of years after high school, put myself through college without loans, worked all through college and graduated. During all that time, I was drinking heavily, but not to the extent where I think I was out of control, right? Although I look back at some things like I met my first love of my life in high school, and we spent a lot of time together for a little while. My friends got really pissed, right? They wanted the party to go back, right? I wasn't hanging out with them anymore. I was hanging out with my girlfriend, who I loved very dearly. They convinced me to leave her, right? So I could go back to the party scene with those guys. So that's a sign of me of my addictive behavior, where despite people I love the most, I push them away in favor of the party and drugs and alcohol. Fast forward to graduating from college. Alcohol was a big part of my life, but I was successful. I was working really hard. I was getting good jobs, getting good raises. I was starting to travel overseas for work, and mostly in Asia again. Ironically, but I think that's kind of like in the back of my mind. I think that maybe I chose the profession I did because there was the opportunity to go back to Asia. Because remember those times, right? I remember those times where I first experienced breaking out of my shell and the party and the wildness that were there. But every time I would travel back to Asia, I would get what I had to do done, but for the most part, it was just waiting until it was time to leave the factory or wherever I was at and spend all night on the company dime, right? Drinking and drugging. And I remember I never thought things were out of control and unmanageable at that time, because I had a great house, had family, my career was going well. Looking back on that though, I think actually when I got to my fourth step, I was thinking back on those times. And then like at one point for about a year and a half, I was living by myself because I was divorced at the time, and had no running water, had no heat. I was showering at work, trying to get through the day just to go back home and drink, right? And in that time, I never thought that was unmanageable, right? I thought there's nothing wrong with this, right? Like I'm still showering, I'm still got a job, I got a nice car, I still got my house, blah blah blah. Complete unmanageability. Looking back at that, I think I'll fast forward to when things truly got out of control. It was right around when COVID hit, and at that point, I would go into the office, but I was physically present, but not really mentally. But I was only thinking about when I could drink again, or how I could get off work early to pick something up before I go home and all that. When COVID hit, they sent us all home to work from home, right? And then it was like a dream, right? It's like I have no accountability. My wife would leave in the morning to go take care of grandkids, right? So I got the whole house by myself. No accountability at work. I can send a few emails and make it look like I'm working, but not really. And just started drinking from the moment my wife would leave. till just before she got back. And then when she go to bed, I would get up and drink some more. And that time I knew things were getting out of control, but I didn't suspect anybody else thought things were out of control. I find out later that that's not exactly true. Of course, it was obvious what was going on. But first time I thought I really got to do something about this. The day before my wife's birthday, I did something really horrible to her. It still traumatizes her today. And the next day of her birthday, I said, "Yeah, this is a big problem. I'm going to figure it out. The right self-reliant me. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to do something about it." She goes, you should probably just check out AA, right? And I didn't know anything about AA back then. I like except for what you see in movies and stuff. I was like, AA, that sounds really creepy and religious, and stuffy, and put it off. Well, maybe you should go to treatment. I can't go to treatment. I'm too important at work, right? Got too much to do. All that selfish thinking and manipulation in my head kept me from going to treatment. But I finally agreed reluctantly that I would check out an AA meeting just to see what it's all about. Maybe it's not what I thought it was. And it was during COVID, so I said I'm certainly not going to an in-person meeting if there were any. So I just opened up the web pages and found a random meeting on Zoom and joined it. And I'm just sitting there listening and listening. And then in the middle of that meeting, somebody broke out into a Bible verse. And no offense to anybody who's religious, it's just that's not my thing, or wasn't my thing at the time. And I was like, I knew it was a creepy religious thing. I knew it. And then at the end, they said the Lord's Prayer. I was like, that's it. Forget it. I'm out of here. Right. And so I white knuckled it. I told my wife about it. I was like, I can't do a religious thing. And it's never been my thing. I wasn't even open-minded enough to think about what they were actually saying. Right. All I heard were the words God and stuff like that. And it's turned me right off. White knuckled it for about 90 days, 100 days, and relapsed right before Christmas. And it was a really terrible relapse. And I remember it was right before Christmas because I'd rented this big place out in Wenatchee for Christmas, and all the family from all over the country was coming to have this nice Christmas. And got so bad, I told my wife, I need to go to treatment. I don't think I can do it anymore. And I remember them taking me to treatment, and I kept saying, I'm sorry, right, for the 15,000th time. I'm sorry. So they've heard it all before many times. And what they said back was like, Michael, this is the best Christmas present you could ever give me. Right. And that hit me really hard at that time, that frothy emotional appeal, right? Like, this is what's going to get me out of it, right? Me giving to them my sobriety. And of course, the book talks about that. That's one of my favorite parts of the book. I like to use it whenever I can. Of course, that didn't work. I did go through the treatment, spent Christmas and New Year's there. I got a sponsor. Wasn't really working the steps. I heard the term "take what you want, leave the rest." I looked at the steps and like, yeah, maybe, no way, screw that. That's what I thought that term meant. And didn't last long. And all I heard in those meetings at that time were how different I was from everybody else who was sharing or speaking. Like, I wasn't homeless. I wasn't arrested. I didn't kill anybody. I was still employed. I still had a home. I'm not like any of these people, right? I'm Michael. I've been self-reliant since I was 14. I don't need this, right? I can figure it out. I got a few tips in treatment. I got a few tips from the steps. Life was good because my family was proud of me, right, for going to treatment over the holidays and going to AA, and thought they saw a little bit of change in me, but I never really gave up my self-will. Like, I went through steps 2 and 3, never did 4, but I never gave it up. And I relapsed and the relapse was only 3 weeks, but it was like the worst possible thing I think I could ever I've ever experienced. Like in those short 3 weeks, my family had left me. I was going to lose my house because it was way late on the mortgage, and the IRS was going to put a lien on the house, and my job certainly wasn't happy because they hadn't seen me in 3 weeks or heard me in 3 weeks. Like, so all those things that I said, I'm not like these people, were about to happen to me in just 3 weeks, right? So I like that term, the acronym for GET, right? That didn't happen to me, and this one would say GET, which just means you're eligible too, right? So that time I knew it was really serious. And I checked in another treatment program and just really beaten. Just like I'd given up hope. There's nothing, I've tried everything. There's nothing I can do. Maybe I really just need to sit down and shut the fuck up and listen. I'm sorry. Listen for once, and sitting there and a panel came in. Nathan was on that panel. And for the first time in my life, I thought, these guys really aren't well shit, right? Because maybe they're real. Who am I to say there's no God? You know. Asked Nathan to be my sponsor. Well, he took me through the steps patiently, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, as they say. And for the most part, I just surrendered and did what people told me, or did what people who did it before me told me what they did, right? And as soon as I just stopped getting in my way and overthinking the program, keeping it simple, and just doing it, right? Life, like, I won't say just life got better. My whole mental state and emotional state got better, right? Anxiety was gone. I was starting to feel actual peace, what we call serenity, right? Like I could go to bed and sleep the whole night and not wake up 15 times a night. And things were coming true, and I just worked the step. Today, Nathan said, Sunday I celebrated 3 years. My life revolves. I remember even like on the 9th and 10th step, when I knew sponsorship was coming up, it's like, I'm not going to sponsor. I can't sponsor. What do I know? What do I have to give? And Nathan kept telling me, you have it. You know what you're doing. You'll be able to do it. Don't worry about it, right? But even up to the time when he told me I could start raising up my hands, it's like, there's no way, right? I can't do it. I can't do anything with other people. I'm still a mess myself, right? And today, like sponsorship and H&I panels and working with newcomers is my whole life right now in the program. Like I live for it. I live for sponsorship. I live for panels. I love going to treatment centers and trying to bring that message to the person who's just like me, completely broken, and watching them grow and seeing that sparkle in their eye again, that kind of stuff. I've been doing that for a couple of years. I had my first sponsee now going into 10, so I'm super stoked. And I'm happy to be here, talk to you guys, and I think about my time's about up. Thank you very much.